Hello, Apple Biters and Apple TVs. It's Les, aka Sister Slayer, here with the Bitten Apple TV. Hello, everybody, and happy holidays. Yes, I'm getting all festive right here for our interviews today. We have a really great show with two really great guests. But before I go on, I have to introduce my partner and co-host, the Written Writ Rob. What's
Oh,
up, Rob?
ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas. I just had to do it.
That actually sounds really good. You got a great voice for that.
I've been dying to go play Santa Claus somewhere, and sooner or later, I'm going to do
Well, not now though. You can't do it now, but
it.
one day it's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
one
You'll
day.
be able to do it. Yes, yes,
I
yes.
figure Santa Claus could use much help as he needs, and I am willing to go help.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Do you know when I was growing up, my grandfather actually scared me and my sister one night. My parents used to tell us, my sister and I, what we would do is we would get up really early, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, to go see what Santa Claus
Right.
had, left out for us. And my parents kept saying, you're getting up too early. You gotta wait until the sun comes up. But we would sneak out anyway just to go see what was under the Christmas tree. And one Christmas, we went into the Christmas, and there was Santa sleeping on the couch. He was sleeping on the couch, or the I guess the little sedan or sofa, or whatever.
Right.
And we're like, oh my gosh, there's Santa. He had eaten like his little cookie and drank a little bit of his milk. And all of a sudden, he kind of like stirred a little bit, like he got up like that. We took off running. It was actually, now that I find out later, it was my grandfather. They got such a good kick out of that. They couldn't wait, to scare us. They terrified us, But that's the first time I knew Santa was black. I know that. So, it's a black Santa Claus. But anyway, Christmas. Let's talk about Christmas. I mean, this is a time where everybody has Christmas. Everybody, thinks about this. But one thing that people really don't realize about Christmas, and this is something that we know, Christmas is actually a time for ghost stories.
Exactly.
And I think that people don't realize that initially that is what Christmas was all about. The most famous ghost story being A Christmas Carol.
Exactly.
By Charles Dickens, which established, I guess this might have been in the 1800s or prior to that.
I think it's the 1800s.
Christmas was based on Christmas stories.
Mm-hmm.
But A Christmas Carol being the most historic and most memorable of all Christmas ghost stories. And this is actually a ritual for me, Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
Every Christmas Eve, without fail, I watch the 1938 version of A Christmas Carol with Reginald Owen and Gene Lockhart, Kathleen Lockhart. Oh, the Lockhart family is actually playing Bob Cratchit's family in there. And I think two of his kids are in that one.
Right.
To me, this is probably the epitome of what Christmas is all about. And I usually watch this while I'm baking my Toll House cookies and prepping my food for a Christmas day. I tell you, by far, one of the best versions, one of the best acted versions of it. And believe it or not, actually some really great special effects for that time period.
Well, just the scene we're looking at right now is amazing, especially if you're thinking that you're looking at 1938,
Right,
Mm-hmm.
Right. Really good story. Very dark, but also very redemptive because, of course, that Scrooge goes through a transformation overnight. So I highly recommend this. I mean, I know that there are all the versions on there. People have recreated this story over and over again ad nauseum. But this 1938 version is just choice. Really, really wonderful. So you yourself, you're writing something for Christmas, a Christmas.
Oh yeah, I've been actually writing it for like years. It's a Santa Claus Christmas story, but it's a little darker than than most people probably would appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the whole concept that I know a lot of people don't see it, but I see Santa Claus as a supernatural type figure. Because he has to have supernatural abilities to do all the stuff that he does.
Yeah, he has to.
Yeah,
he's magical. There's
exactly
magic in what he does.
And I started thinking a while back. I was like, if he's supernatural, then a supernatural type Santa Claus story would make a lot of sense. And then I started taking it from there. And, like I said a little while ago, I want to help Santa Claus. So what if there was a kid out there who wanted to help Santa Claus? and he got his opportunity to help Santa Claus. But in order to do this opportunity, he had to face his fears.
Ooh,
So that's the story I've
wow.
been working on for a couple of years.
Wow. And so when is the story finally going to get released?
Um, as the rate I'm going, probably it looks like next Christmas.
I
At the
can't
rate
wait.
I'm going, yeah.
And
And
is this going to be touted as a children's story or?
I want to do it as a children's story. Like I've said before, I don't feel like talking down to children is the way to do it. I like talking to children, and my style of writing talks to children. Just like I'm doing the Hugbert story, I don't feel like I should be talking down. It should be something where it's something that the child can understand. It's something that is at the moment. It's not something going, well, look, you're so cute. I've just never seen that before. Even when I talk to my daughter, it's like, hi, Leilani, how are you doing?
That's so formal. She's going to be coming to you, Father. I need the keys to the car,
I'm
Father.
waiting for that. And then I film some Star Trek scenes and be like, Father, yes, I am your father.
Oh, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
Oops,
What?
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars. Oh, well, I can't wait to read this.
And
So,
it's funny that and like we were talking about before. It's so funny that people don't understand that you have these they're beautiful Christmas stories, but they're haunted Christmas stories. And some of the best things we've ever seen are those stories where a ghost comes back for one last visit with his family, or a soldier who's been dead shows up somewhere and saves somebody's life, but he's already dead. But it's a Christmas story. I feel like we forget these stories because we're so busy translating haunted with Halloween and everything else.
mhm, mhm.
And there's such amazingly rich stories.
Yeah.
And I feel like they don't get enough credit. That's why I love The Nightmare Before Christmas, because it's just a fantastically dark Christmas story.
Yeah, perfect for that too. It's just
Hmm.
all tied into just one, theme, and it's funny because I don't know if people think that it's misplaced to be a Halloween story and a Christmas story, but I think it's perfect,
It's
you
perfect, yeah.
know,
Hmm.
because that's what it started out being. People would tell haunted Christmas stories by the fireside Christmas Day, or Christmas evening after they had their meals and stuff like this. And I mean, it's the perfect picture of what it was like probably around the turn of the century, the 1800s, when Charles Dickens
Exactly.
wrote this amazing Christmas story.
And it's such an amazing Christmas story because it's been translated so many times. I agree with you. I can't get enough of A Christmas Carol. I like watching the different versions of it.
Mhm.
I think my favorite one is the one with Albert Finney.
Oh yeah, that one's a good one too. Very well
Yeah, because I
acted.
love his transformation.
Yeah,
That excitement of becoming the new person. I
yeah.
just feel like he out of all the ones I've seen, he embodies that. It's like this giddiness, this fantastic feeling. You know, not to take away from any of the other ones because I really do like them, but that's a beautiful one. I don't know if you remember the Mr. Magoo Christmas Carol.
Yes, I do remember
Oh my
that.
God, that's another fantastic one.
Absolutely remember that one.
That one,
And if I could
you
find
want to
it
be
anywhere, I would definitely watch it because that completely brings me back to a moment of my childhood when there was just so much happiness
oh
and
my God, yeah.
so much innocence. Perfect, perfect, perfect story.
And it's so funny because you wouldn't think it because it's Mr. Magoo, but it's such a tearjerker.
Yeah,
It's such a it's such fantastic way they put Mr. Magoo into this Christmas Carol, and you
yeah.
figure it's going to be like this funny thing, but it's really not.
It's really not. It's really not. Well, if you haven't seen the 1938 version, I highly recommend
Oh
that.
no, no, that's one of the ones I watch.
Yeah, and definitely the one with Albert Penny, and then of course if we can find that one, the one with Mr. Magoo. I don't know if
It's a
we
little
can get
harder
it
to find
anywhere.
now.
Yeah.
I feel like the Cartoon Channel before. I don't know if you remember this. Like when Cartoon Network first started,
Mhm.
you'd had all these like shows that would talk about the cartoons in the old times. It would be like little oh look, check this out. This is Max Fleischer and his cartoons and what he did, and it would explain these cartoons and it would showcase them. Then during Christmas time, they would pull out all these old cartoons and showcase them and talk about them, and I missed that from Cartoon Network. Now it's all about these newer cartoons, which I like too, but sometimes you want to see the stuff that it's been there. It's
Yeah,
history,
yeah, you do. And I think you want to reintroduce your kids to that
right?
because it's a classic for a reason.
Hmm.
You know, it's a classic because there's nothing that preceded it. There's nothing that, you know, is better than that. And it's always good to see something in its pure form when it was originally created and not recreated to update for modern times. You could take it in
Exactly.
its purest, that purest aspects of it. So we could stay here and talk about Christmas all day.
We can do a whole show on that.
Yeah, we can do the whole show on Christmas, and maybe next year we have to do that. But we want to introduce our first guest. The best way that I can introduce this guest, I mean, he did give me like a little brief bio and everything, but he actually has a video. So I want to show and share that video with everybody. Let's do that. And I'm going to pull this up and take us out of the screen.
The philosopher and poet Rumi said, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself." Hi, I'm Matthew HUTTLE, founder and CEO of Hero's Breath. And in 2015, I was a drunk, lonely loser sleeping on his ex-wife's couch. I had washed out of my career in the health and fitness field, was working a crappy dead-end job that I hated. It seemed like my life was at a complete standstill. Fast forward to today, and I'm sober. I'm in a wonderful tribe filled with beautiful people. I've got a fulfilling career, and I'm building a business that I'm proud of. How did I do it? I embraced the power of story. Joseph Campbell was a 20th century mythologist who figured out that all great stories follow a specific pattern that's found all across time and cultures. And he called this the monomyth, or hero's journey. And he believed that if we applied this pattern personally, then our lives could become amazing tales of wonder and success. The reason that humans have thrived on this planet is that we have an ability to dream and to plan and to band together to make those dreams a reality. And it's in coming together that we find our strength. And it's here at Hero's Breath that I endeavor to help you find yours. The truth is, I'm not special. I use the monomyth pattern to put my life into context, which enabled me to make sense of the chaos that life can often be. I thus learned to embrace challenges and grow from the lessons that they provide. I'm just a guy who has been through a hell of his own making and survived. And I know you can do the same. What you'll find on heroesbreath.com, as well as a number of social media platforms, are the words of the giants on whose shoulders I stood to get to where I am today, as well as real life stories from people just like you who are currently challenging the gods to rewrite their fate. So, follow and subscribe to Hero's Breath, and you too will discover the power of your story.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's introduce our first guest. Hey, Matt.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great, flattered, and honored to be here.
I don't know, man. You keep telling me, how do you keep saying I'm inspirational? And then we watch that video, and I'm like, how do you not think you're not inspirational?
Oh, see, I think amazing things about myself all the time. It's just a matter of selling that to other people. That sometimes
Always stay humble. Always stay humble. Because,
I agree.
You know,
you've spoken to my ex-wife, haven't you?
Hey now. Hey now. But thank you so much. That is such an inspirational story. And I'm going to be setting up some stuff in the background because I want to kind of share some footage of you in the background. So Ralph, you're going to actually have to take the lead here. But can you kind of just, I know you gave us a brief synopsis of what occurred to you in the story, but I know that there's some details that you had to leave out because you had a little short minute video. But tell us about this journey that you went on to be who you are today.
Well, all right, thank you. It's funny. I love how you said journey singular because it isn't. A lot of people like we watch great stories, like you guys were just talking about, wonderful Christmas stories, and they're all kind of linear. What's the name from Wonderful Life? My brain's stopped working as soon as you started speaking.
Are you talking about
What, Jimmy Stewart? Or
we'll just go with Jimmy Stewart. So Jimmy Stewart's story Jimmy Stewart's story is fairly linear, right? It was the start of his life to the point of his, realization and all the trials and tribulations. There might have been a little fork where you play with temporal mechanics a little bit, but real life is actually circular. And if you look at my little logo, there is actually kind of a artistic rendition of that hero's journey. There's 3 sections. There's separation, initiation, and return. And that's kind of been taken off of Campbell's work. I always recommend people go read Hero with 1,000 Faces, but I will, as a caveat, add on that it is very heavy. It is very meaty. It is very long. It's taken me a long time to get through the whole audio version. If you really want to know more about Campbell's work, you have to watch his interviews, and you have to read a lot of his own commentary, and you have to listen to commentary of other people. You have to check out a really cool blog where somebody talks about it a lot. Yeah, but our lives are this circular story. I was just listening to Ed Milet's podcast, and he had David Goggins on about a year ago. And I don't know how I missed it. Somebody was like, dude, you got to listen to this. So I was listening to it, and he was talking about the fact that everyone thinks that when they get to a certain point, they've arrived. And then they have this like point of elevation and everything's going to be okay. It's not. You've gotten to a level where things are okay for now, but then you're going to constantly keep cycling around. So my story is circular. What I spoke about in that intro video was really, I'm about, I would say about 2/3 of the way through my second round. My first mono myth, the first time I realized I was living a hero's journey by going through the trials and tribulations, putting myself in my own hell. The first time I realized that, it was a long swath. It was like years of my life before all that stuff finally started clicking into place. And it really started clicking into place in retrospect. I kind of had to start piecing it together. So I was like 90% of the way through it when I figured this stuff out. And now I'm kind of in like my own second round of it, and probably go into more detail later. And it's interesting because I'm more aware of it. Maybe in some ways I'm trying to make certain things in my life fit, but in other ways I'm looking back, instead of looking back years, I'm only looking back a few weeks going, oh wait, I'm in the Atonement with the Father stage, or I'm in, this stage, and that's laying out. And what's really interesting is I've had people on my old podcast, and they'd be talking about their own stories, and I'd pull out the chart and I say, okay, you were just here, you're telling me about that, and here, and this is what's going to happen in your life next, and I have never been wrong. I mean, it's broad. It's like going to a psychic, but it's in broad terms, but people fill in the details as they go. Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
No. So I noticed that you were actually talking about certain phases that people go through in their life. What are these phases that you're mentioning?
Well, Joseph Campbell broke down the monomyth into, thank you, Will. Joseph Campbell broke these phases down into the sections. There's 3 main segments: separation, initiation, and return. And then there's little chapters throughout. He broke it down into 17. Other people have simplified it. But let's say you have the hero, they're in their world, and they have a problem that needs to be solved. They get a call to adventure to go off out of their world, cross a threshold to a new world, to a magical world, where they'll be in the belly of the whale. And before that, sometimes they meet the mentor. Sometimes it's afterwards, they get some sort of aid. Sometimes there's a refusal, there's like hesitation. And then they cross into this new world, and then they're defeated, then they heal, then they deal with trauma that could be generational, personal deep trauma, generational trauma. That's why it's called Atonement with the Father when you look at Campbell's work. And then there's the actual apotheosis, coming to a great realization, getting a great power. And then there's sometimes a hesitation to return to the ordinary world, because the cycle isn't over. The story isn't over if the hero just takes off. The hero has to go back and solve the problem that he left to solve in the first place. And then he ends up being the master of 2 worlds, the avatar, holding the spirit and human world together. And this is actually my least favorite part when I hit it in my own life, was the freedom to live, because I called it waiting for dragons. I had so much enjoyment in what the military, I'm not a veteran or anything, but the military uses a phrase, embrace the suck. And it's when you're going, and if you listen to any successful entrepreneur, which I did as I was getting sober, I listened to a lot of entrepreneurs, had a lot of personal identity issues that I had to deal with. And as I was going through that and realizing more about myself, how I connected with specific kinds of people and minds and models, it was more a matter of seeing these lines of correlation. And all of them always say that when you love the process, however hard it is, you have to learn to enjoy that process, even the really crappy parts of it. And that's where the most growth happens. So as I started to embrace that, I found that once I reached this kind of, like happy ending for a while, I was actually really miserable.
I completely agree with you.
I started over. I was ecstatic. I'm like, yes, this is my call to. I had a literal call to adventure the second time, and I'm like, I'm loving it. It's so much fun. I'm having so much fun, even in the worst moments where I have like darkness and self-doubt, and going into a store and seeing liquor bottles on the cabinet and hearing them whisper to me. Like even in those moments where I'm at my lowest point, I have to stop myself and remember, I signed on for this. This is the fun stuff.
I was going to say, I completely agree with you. A lot of people don't understand they're on the hero's journey, and it takes them a long time to even realize that they're on a journey. There's something, and not even talking about the hero's journey.
Right.
I feel like it takes a step more to realize you are on the hero's journey, that you are doing this thing that Joseph described, and and it's amazing, like like you were saying, like I didn't realize till like later on that I was on the hero's journey. I realized because I read the book, I heard the interviews, and oh my God, this is fantastic for my writing. But it wasn't until later on that I goes, oh, I'm on the hero's journey, and we're going somewhere, and the journey never ends until I end. And that's the way that you need to see it, because even if you get to your destination on that first journey, there's other destinations to go through. And I completely agree with you on that. And I feel like a lot of people don't see that, don't understand that you're just not trying to get to one destination. You're trying to get to multiple destinations, and each destination teaches you something different.
Yeah. And those lessons are what's most important. Whatever it is. And it sounds, on my podcast, my buddy Tom Jasinski and we just kept tripping over this idea that the cliches are so accurate, and it's so annoying, and you don't want cliches to be true.
Exactly.
But they're true. They're almost all true, I've found. Especially, I found out the hard way. And it's interesting because, like you saw in that video, there's actually, you saw Jordan Peterson talking on stage. I actually recorded that surreptitiously at one of his events. Got yelled at by security. It was fun. And that's why I say surreptitiously. But he talks a lot about the fact that life is suffering. That's what all the great religious and philosophical minds have figured out. And you just have to make some sort of peace with that and just keep going. And he talks a lot about making the choice to let it kill you or let it make you stronger, for the sake of all cliches.
Exactly, yeah.
And what I said in my intro video is that using Joseph Campbell's work to put my life into context fulfilled everything. It made sobriety like possible, like tangible, like gave me something to hold on to. How religious am I about it? I try not to be too dogmatic, and I try to let it be flexible, because you don't want to put it's kind of like the way a lot of Native American tribes, they all believed in most, if not all, believed in the Great Spirit. And if you look in a lot of other pagan beliefs, they may have had a pantheon of gods, but all those gods came out of some other thing. Our ancestors didn't put like these restrictive notions on what God is. That came much, much later and much more egoically. And I'm not ripping on anyone's religious beliefs, but I find that very telling about humanity, has how in the older days, we kind of just let the big everything be, and then we try to extract as much meaning out of it for ourselves as we could. And I think that's why ancient gods were a lot more reachable And even in our modern incarnation, that's why I find a lot of people have more warm, fuzzy feelings towards Marvel versus DC. Their heroes are a lot more human, and DC's
Exactly.
heroes are a lot more godlike.
Godlike.
Yes, yes.
You know, I mean, both are great stories, but
Exactly.
it's like what calls to you more, I think, has really been the big bone of contention with geeks and nerds everywhere.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because you look at DC and you see Superman, you see Batman, and you can see the pantheon as you're looking at these heroes. You can actually see it. You can see, oh, there's Hades, there's Zeus, there's right. And then what ended up happening to me was I started with DC, and I ended with Spider-Man, and then here's this teenage kid who's going through the stuff that I'm going through. At the same time, I'm going through it, and he's miserable. But at the same time, he's still doing what he needs to do, because he's still trying to do the good that needs to be done. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people get upset when you throw that phrase in there, but it's such an amazing phrase. It's such a lesson. It's something that in life, again, the hero's journey, most people don't even realize. Most people don't even find that big answer to questions till like later on. My first hero's journey was the hero's journey where I went to find my spirituality. And it wasn't a simple quest. It was something where I went from religion to religion, trying to find the answer to the big spiritual question. And in doing that, it opened my mind to all the various religions and all the various things out there. And I understood that, all this seems to be about the same God. It's just different versions of that God.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so I can deal with that. So here, and then when I got back to my Native Americanness, because it was one of the first ones I hit, so I love the idea of, brother dear, thank you for this sacrifice. You've made to make me a much to feed us. It's such an amazing thing to go in that direction and be understanding that everything is interconnected.
Yes.
And most people don't realize that.
Yeah. One of my earlier incarnations of, obviously I have a personal development brand. One of the earlier incarnations of that, I came up with a few little hashtags, and one of them was everything is connected. It wasn't something I came up with, but I used that one a lot. And yeah, that's another theme, and that's another trope that seems to be replete throughout the greatest stories. Like there's certain tropes, there's certain themes and ideas that keep coming up in story, and that was Campbell's, I guess, ethos, really, that these aspects of story are keep repeating because they're so important. And something that Campbell and Dr. Peterson and Carl Jung, Nietzsche, all the greatest minds talked about is that we as human beings are connected to something ethereal, something ephemeral, and that we're telling these stories like this almost like generational procession, trying to pass down the most pertinent information to the next generation. And we do it in a creative way so that the information is assimilated among the youngest minds. And stories of various characteristics and flavors are the best way to do that. So again, that's why I chose, or I should say, kind of chose me. When I came up with Hero's Breath, I was on this quest to find all these names, or to find a name. I'd spoken with a trademark attorney because I was going to trademark an older brand, and she said, it's not that good. You're going to have problems. She says, come up with something else. And for like 3 weeks, I was like scraping my brain. And then one day I was at a con. I was at I was at Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, and I've just been hanging out with everybody. I was in like a closet cosplay, and it was just being around all that vibe, that energy, all those geeks and nerds. And at some point, I remember clearly, I had come home, and I was speaking with one of my best friends, my ex-wife. Actually, we're still really good friends. I kid. And and I've been telling her my problem and like bouncing, and occasionally I would send her, because I trust her, so I would send her ideas, and she'd be like, or no, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like Athena popping out of Zeus's head. And I remember my hands were shaking. I'm like, this is it. I know this is it. And I typed Hero's Breath to her, and she said, that's exactly it. And so it's like when you go on this journey, and that for me was actually the apotheosis phase of my first round. And what's funny is everything after that just accelerated
Yeah, of course.
to holy hell. And then
Eureka.
right,
It was
right.
meant to be, definitely, because that was meant to be.
Yes. And no, wait, it gets crazier. Because if you look at my social media, so first of all, I went online, I went on Wix to set up my website. Heroesbreath.com was complete, the domain was completely open. Instagram, TikTok, Parlor, every single one of those. No underscores, no hashtags, no periods, no number ones. It was all there.
Yeah.
It was waiting for me.
Mhm.
And this is what I really, I try not to get too emotional. I really want people to understand this when they talk about, again, talking about stereotypes and cliches and The Secret and all that other, hippy dippy woo woo stuff. It is real. Do not slap it down.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be like you may not be able to wrap, an amethyst necklace around yourself and go walking in traffic and expect not to get hit by a car. Reality is there, but there is, as you said, something more, something ephemeral in our existence, and we have to trust it to a certain degree, and we have to be willing to not be so cynical.
Exactly.
As kids, we're willing to see ourselves, we're willing to tie a red towel around our necks and play Superman out in the backyard, and then at some point we get really cynical and get real.
We lose the magic.
Right, but that magic is still there.
Yeah,
that magic is absolutely still there. So when and I trademarked it too. The trademark was there. Everything was there.
Wow.
That just says it's meant to be, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's there. I want everybody watching this and listening to this to understand it. That magic is still there, no matter what you're going through in your life. That magic is absolutely still there. And if you want to argue with me, I'm very easy to get a hold of. I'm on like multiple platforms. Come argue with me. I thoroughly invite it.
I kind of believe you on that, because in everything that I have gone through many journeys in my life, and Ralph can attest to this, I have not had an extraordinary life, and I did not realize that I was on a hero's journey. On my journey, I just knew that I was living my life to the fullest. In my lifetime, I've been, after high school, NFL cheerleader, flight attendant, actor, a producer now, doing all this stuff, married. There was different journeys that I've been on, which at some point I realized I had to be courageous. And in each part of that life, there was always something, and me, I can only equate it to video games because I'm a gamer, is that there was like a key or an Easter egg or something there that I could grab onto. That was the one thing that propelled me into that moment or that situation. So when I look at people who have been in situations where they want to give up on life, I'm someone who's very inspirational, because there have been times when I have been at my lowest, but I always know that I can keep going because there's a better way, or there's there's something else out there for you. You're just not going down the right journey, or you're just not going or maybe it is your journey, but you're
not at the right point
in order for you to grow and to be stronger. And each one of those moments in my life, I went through a transition. One thing propelled it. The reason why I became a flight attendant was because I was in a bad relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it was like something just snatched into the universe and pulled me out and pulled me into this position as a flight attendant. The reason why I'm in New York City, which is something that I had always had a dream about, was because I wanted to be an actor. But if I had decided to be an actor when I wanted to be an actor, I didn't have enough strength to be that to go through that.
Exactly.
And not until I became a flight attendant, got based here, got injured on the job, then I started having classes and became an actor and started working immediately. All of that was because I had to be in certain positions of my life to get into the next journey. I had to have certain armor. I had to have certain strengths, abilities to get into that next journey. And that is how you have to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. No,
I never knew that I was on that journey, but now you can put it in perspective for me.
No, and I really appreciate you saying that, because I mean, Campbell had said, when you're on your journey, I'm paraphrasing, when you're on your journey, doors will open for you that wouldn't open for somebody else.
Exactly.
And that often gets misquoted and misappropriated. But I really appreciate you saying that, because if you saw towards the, in parts of that intro video, one of the things I did in my second round, my literal call to adventure, I got recruited with a financial company that's more than a financial company. It's basically a personal development company that just happens to work in finance. So a lot of the same principles that I was already involved with, wanted to. I was in my office at home, and I was literally looking over my bills going, I am underwater. I do not know how to make this actually work. I have a trademark. Great. What am I doing? Like, and no clue. And a buddy had referred me. So I got a literal call to adventure. The recruiter called me. I had some other things going on with my massage and Pilates certifications I had to get done. So after I had my first interview, I was going to put the brakes on it. And then I get an email saying, yeah, your grace period for your certification for Pilates has expired. And I'm like, all right, forget it. And I jumped right into this company. It's been great. And I had a little bit of growth. I had a little bit of thing, building a team and doing like really, really cool stuff. But then everything just kind of died on me. And I've been going through almost exactly the same thing where a lot of those doubts have been in my own head lately, where I'm like, not that I don't think I can do it. I ask myself, did I waste too much time trying to set things up for myself? And am I beyond the point where this is going to really be successful for me? And then I realized, as you said, there were certain moments of growth for myself. There were more parts of the journey. I got into a car accident, my first ever at 38. So I'm awesome. Even though I made a blind left, it was like, and it was weird too. And in that moment, like my brain stopped working. And I pulled like a 17-year-old's move and I made a blind left I would never do. Everyone was fine. Car was totaled, but it grounded me. And it got me thinking back more about the things that were more important that I had to get focused on again. And it was all of that personal growth that I just had to go through in this past year, in this wonderful year of 2020, that is setting me up for a greater success going forward. So I totally vibe with what you're saying, Les. And I really, yours, as far as my beautiful pagan heart is telling me, is you are speaking for the gods right now. And I greatly appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. But you did actually just put that all into, you wrapped it up for me in that sense. I don't think that anything is happenstance. I think that even your birth is not happenstance. Even if you were born out of wedlock or born through a very, vile situation, you have a purpose, you have an intent. There is something you're going to do, and it could change other people's lives by what I consider, from my spiritual life and my religious, my beliefs, a testimony that can change someone's life.
Yeah.
You never know when you're able to extend a hand to bring somebody out of a situation because they can't see the forest for the trees, or because they can't, it's just so much stuff in front of them that they can't see their way out. And you're there to help them along with that journey. So
well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's the whole goal, is whatever your experience is. I mean, it might have personal value, but has so much more value for others. The hero has to bring the elixir back to his ordinary world. He can't keep it for himself. Right. And that's actually, and what's funny is before, because when my first round, I didn't have a hesitation. I didn't have because some of those phases are optional. They're not in every story. And the refusal of the return, I didn't have. I've been living it for an extended period of time this time around because of my own self-doubt. And I realize I have a lot of that. I may sound very confident and self-assured, and for the most part I am. But there are even moments for me where I hesitate. And one round of the journey that wasn't there, this time it is. Whatever you go through as a person, you're going to find that the hero's journey, each cycle is going to be a little bit different. And I think you just have to really, really want to reemphasize, love every part of it.
Yeah.
Hey, Melanie here just said success has no time limit. And I think that we personally put a time limit on these successes. Because, we need to be here by this point. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. If you get there by that point, hey, more power to you. Right. But you need to stay open. You need to stay open to the journey. Because it's the whole journey that gets you to where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. I really couldn't have said it better than that. I'm loving it. I don't know about everybody else, what they say in their life. And you know what? You said something interesting, Les. You said, I didn't lead an extraordinary life. You have. And sometimes it's a matter of perspective of what we think our life, what extraordinary really is. I mean, is my life as maybe as interesting as it would have been if I had, let's say, joined the Marines when I was younger. Like I kind of wanted to, not kind of, really wanted to. I just did not grow up in a household where that was acceptable. I'm sure I would have had a very interesting life.
Yeah.
My life's been pretty interesting anyway.
Yeah.
And it's all a matter of perspective, but it's all a matter of value. Like I said, I had some identity issues I had to deal with throughout my 20s. And that kind of crept up on me into my 30s, that I just said, okay, it's time to face this. I had to go into that cave. What Lucas did in The Empire Strikes Back when I was a kid seemed rather superfluous with the whole cave sequence on Dagobah. And now, I spoke about this on my podcast, is now that I'm an adult, now that I've been through the hero journey a couple of times, it's the best part of all of those movies.
Yeah.
It's it's everything that Star Wars hinged on was in that, I think it was like 4.5 minute sequence. It all came down to that one scene, which I find is very nicely nestled in the entire anthology, is that one scene right there in the middle. That's everything you need to know about Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, the Empire. Everything is done there. And people look at me sideways when I say that. And I'm like, well, and then
I totally agree.
they're stuck in a room with me. They're going to have to hear me explain all of it. So I'm not doing that right now.
Yeah. But you're right about that. The fact that he was able to when he was on Dagobah, and the fact that he went into the cave and faced his fears.
Exactly.
Without even knowing that's what he was doing.
Yes. And without even knowing that that's what he was doing. And that is like the turning point of the whole freaking story, was the fact when the minute he decided to go on that journey, you saw growth in his character. You saw wanting questions, and you saw him on his journey. That moment, that's was the changed everything.
Exactly.
And that really exemplifies.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that really exemplifies what I said before about generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It really encapsulated that. I think before that was a more commonly understood phrase. Lucas really captured that, is that Luke wasn't just dealing with his own fears and his own darkness. He was dealing with his father's. And that is sometimes you have to carry, and this is what Dr. Peterson talks about, Campbell, Young, all the greatest minds. Sometimes it's not fair to ask you to carry the burden of generations before you, but that's what life is about. It's fixing yourself up to be a better person. That's why Dr. Peterson always talks about clean your room. You can't really solve society's problems if you can't fix your own room. Like, do the little things, then you can handle the big things. But it's knowing that, it's not fair to be expected to carry generational burdens, but
it's the way it is.
What other options do you have? You can check out.
We all have stuff that we have to deal with.
But maybe the reason why you have to carry that generational curse or whatever with you is so that you have the ability to rectify it, so that it does not go. Because maybe somebody's life was cut short at that time where they couldn't rectify that situation, but you have the ability now to do it.
Exactly.
And instead of using it as a hindrance for your life, instead of using it as a crutch or an excuse, you have the ability to overcome it, so that it's a different story down the line to another generation. You know, so definitely.
That story can just, the whether that story is good, bad, or otherwise, it really does hinge on us, and it's a big responsibility. And I like that you threw that picture up there with my daughter. That's Fee. She is. That.
I feel you.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's why I do what I do. Right.
Well,
there.
I'm sure she's very proud of you. And in fact, I know she is. Well, we could actually talk about this.
I know. We keep going. Yeah.
We have to come back and actually talk about just more about this journey and everything, and maybe probably devote a whole show to this, because this is something very deep.
I was about to say that, Leslie. I was about to say that, I'm actually doing a written live, and our friend here, Matt, is going to be on the show, because we're going to talk about how the hero's journey, has influenced, just not just the writing, but lives in general, because it is a journey, and it's an amazing journey that we go through. And as a writer, really need to understand the life journey that we do to create better characters, to create better stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do a live written writ. If you want to be a part of it, let me know.
Sounds good.
All
Yeah,
right.
I appreciate that,
You
man. I
asking me
really
personally, or
appreciate
you
it.
asking the audience?
Yeah.
Listen,
We're all going to be there.
okay,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, we can do that. We can do that. What I want to do is just kind of pull up all of your information so that people can follow you and
Appreciate that. Thank you.
kind of know where they can get you. So at Instagram, you're Hero's Breath, and like you said, divine. It was
Providence.
divine. Yeah, Providence that you had this. So I don't know how anybody can't find you because Hero's Breath is yours.
It's mine.
So it's everywhere. But
I spent a lot of money on that trademark. It's mine.
hey, it was worth it. It was worth it.
Exactly.
But thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I mean, this was very interesting. It was very deep, and I definitely want to continue this conversation with you because I think people need to hear it, especially right now when everybody is feeling that life is very hard right now. And we're all going on our separate heroes journey through this process with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just want to encourage everybody to don't give up. This is going to pass.
It is.
And to move forward, find this moment right now while you're down, you're away from family, while you're separated from others and you're in isolation, to work on yourself and to create. Because that's what you were created to do, to be a co-creator. So just create right now. Come up with something. You never know what it's going to be.
I love it. I thank you very much, both of you guys, for having me on. Really appreciate it. I'm glad we could do this. And thanks for letting me run rampant throughout your show and just yammer like a madman. I hope people get some value out of it.
Yeah, hey, anytime I get a chance to talk about Joseph, I'm going to do it.
I appreciate you both. Thank you very much for having me.
Matt. Have a good day. I know you have to go because you have to go to work. So.
All right.
Thank
you, guys.
Happy holidays to you too. To you
and to you and all your loved ones as well.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye. That was awesome.
Yeah, I told you he's just inspirational. He's just an amazing guy.
Yeah, that was really awesome. It was inspirational and emotional at the same time.
Exactly.
Because I think it's just something that most of us don't look at it from that perspective.
Oh, not at all. We should, but we don't.
Yeah, definitely not. So let's go ahead and move on. We have we have a really great person on here, one of my dear friends. We want to introduce her. We don't want to delay it very long. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just read a little bit about my friend, Kate. She is a Long Island poet. Kate Fox is a mother, a breast cancer survivor, and award-winning author of the collections My Pink Ribbons, Hope, Liars, Mistruths and Perceptions, and Angels and Saints. Recently, she co-edited her first anthology, The Hands We Hold. Kate was a regular contributor to Great South Bay magazine from 2004 through 2015. Her work has been featured in the Diversity and Shadows shows at the East End Arts Gallery, as well as their 2014 Winners Show. Kate's work has been included in several Bard's annual anthologies, Suffolk County Poetry Review 2015 and 2020 through 2020, Bards Against Hunger, 13 Days of Halloween 2017, and Performance Poets Association 2015 and 2017 anthologies. She received the 2014 Bard's Humanitarian Award for the work she does for breast cancer awareness and various charities, including the American Cancer Society and Cancer Can Rock. Since the release of My Pink Ribbons, Kate has spoken at several events, sharing her inspired journey with anyone who will listen. She hosted the weekly web show Sometimes Adversity Isn't on thedailyblue.com and has covered events on camera for C Italia TV and Village Connection magazine. She was also host of Ladies Night Out on Village Connection Radio. Kate is the owner and founder of the Sly Fox Talent Management and Sly Fox Productions, as well as the host of the Kate Fox Show. Her fifth collection, Perimeters, will be released in early to mid 2021. and she can be found at www.katespityparty.com. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us please introduce our friend, Kate.
It's
Hi
Kate.
guys.
Oh,
How you doing?
Hi, I miss you.
I miss you too.
Yes, yes. Kate and I, we've done some work together. We actually were introduced to each other last year at the Sopranos Con through our friends at It Came From
it
the
came
Radio.
from the radio.
Yeah, we both did like a little stint there, and we just like immediately hit it off. We just like immediately hit it off. And then we talked, found out that Kate was a rocker like me, and that we had a lot in common with rock music. And Kate invited my husband's band, Black Dawn, to do their what was their Cancer Can Rock show.
Yeah. Oh, you're giving me goosebumps. Listen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The whole time you guys were talking to Matthew, my arms were just shooting up with goosebumps. And you just gave me goosebumps again, Leslie.
Yeah, let me tell you something. That show, interestingly enough, that show was right before COVID. It was right before everything was happening at COVID. And we were able to pull that show off right before everything went down and everybody started being in isolation. And it was hugely successful.
You know what? Considering the fact that we had the Shark, 94.3, the Shark was going to be there. They had to pull out. They did some PSAs. They did a lot of promotion, but they were going to be there. They had to pull out. We had one band pull out on Friday. We got a replacement. Sunday, we had a band pull out. All the venues were closing. And when I spoke to Pauline, who was the owner of Revolution, and she said, I'm in if you're in. And of course, Black Dawn was in and Rebel 9, and we got Demon Scar last minute, thank God. And we were I believe, last live show on Long Island before everything shut down, because it was March 15th. It was a Sunday afternoon. And we were the final show before Revolution was the first casualty of COVID and had to close their doors.
And that's very sad to me.
And it's sad to me too. And you know what? That show, we had very low attendance because a lot of people weren't coming out.
Yeah.
And we still had one of the most amazing shows I've been to with, of course, again, we raised actual money despite, I think we had maybe 30 people, which I would, in any other scenario, I'd hate to say that because I'd be mortified, but I am absolutely blown away by those people that came. And I'm blown away. The bands, donated their time, of course, donated merch sales, and we made money still for the charity with a turnout. It was supposed to be one of the biggest shows I've done so far for Cancer Can Rock, and it was the smallest.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, look, I'm getting goosebumps again all day between Matthew and between talking to you. And it was amazing. Yeah. And they appreciated it, so much.
Yeah. It was very well done. I mean, the media came and they actually interviewed us, and we thought honestly that they were coming because they were slowly but surely cutting down, turning the lights on places. They were turning the lights off, saying, you can't have any gatherings more than somebody.
Right.
But we were actually there, actually going on, actually doing this, and it was hugely successful. And I actually think I have some footage of that night. That may be something from the news. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Oh, and if it's the news, they were trying to close the lights off in the venue because the news was late getting there.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull this up.
Everything was just against you. It's just amazing. Like we were just saying, that was part of the journey. You needed to go through all that to make it what it was. Yeah. And even though all that stuff happened, you guys still came out on top, and it was an amazing venture.
Absolutely.
Let's go. Let me start this. Can you hear it? Nope.
Nope.
Hold on. Let me do something once. Let me just stop sharing it for a second. Let me try this again.
Well, I can.
Music producer Jim Ebert, a 19-year brain cancer survivor. The
Let's
organization
start from the beginning.
founders hit the stage to help fellow musicians battling cancer. It's called Cancer Can Rock in NY in New York. It was held last night at Revolution in Amityville. Bands played to raise money for Cancer Can Rock, a non
That's Revel 9.
by multi-platinum music producer Jim Ebert, a 19-year brain cancer survivor. The organization raises money to get musicians into the studio during an otherwise unsettling time.
They lay down tracks. Now they get a music video, and what happens is, not a lot of them survive. It's not looking for a cure, but what they do is they get to leave behind a legacy.
To learn more about Cancer Can Rock, head to news12.com, click on numbers and links. Sorry, 7:39.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Now
Yeah.
I'm crying.
Yeah. You know what? I started crying too because
Yeah, it was.
Revolution is a great bar. I have a lot of memories there, and just what we pulled off that night and what we were able to do for those who are struggling through this. And both Kate and I have personal stories about cancer that we share, and I think that's probably one of the biggest bonds that we have with one another. She is a cancer survivor, and I lost my mom to cancer. So it's just, I'm glad that we could do this. I'm looking forward to this being, in the future where we could do it in 2021.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm speaking for Black Dawn right now. We will be there if you need us.
I almost put a Black Dawn shirt on today too.
Yeah, we'll definitely do this because it was a great cause and great people, and the Rocks community here in New York City is everybody really knows everybody, and everybody actually works with one another. I mean, they have long-standing relationships with one another, very supportive. It's a unique bond that all of us have. So kudos to everybody that made Cancer Can Rock success this year, 2020, and looking forward to 2021. So let's move forward about the books that you've written.
Yes.
Gosh, you've gotten so many, you've done so much writing. Tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that you've written. What was your motivation for so many books, or your poetry? Tell us about that.
Well, I have been writing literally since I'm 11 years old. And I've been trying to journal consistently, but I don't really journal. And it's something I took to naturally. And it's how it could be something personal for me. I could observe something, that someone else is going through. Well, quite frankly, as I've advanced, like I'll give myself homework sometimes. I'll just pick a word to write about. But I've been publishing for a while. And when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I, wrote poetry as I was going through whatever, doctor's appointments, this and that. And after my unilateral total mastectomy, I was preparing to walk in the first breast cancer walk as a survivor. And I reached out to my mentor and I said, I think I wrote a book. And so she said, send it to me. Because I realized I had so many poems about my experience. And I sent it to her and she called me and she said, okay, you have to contact these people. And so my first book, I want to say, did I receive it? I'm losing track of what happened on what dates, because within a couple of days of me submitting the book to the publisher, they accepted it. So that was my first book. My first, second, and fourth collections are actually about my journey, and they're chronological. So it takes the reader through my thought process as I was going through my physical changes. Mm-hmm. And so That's what 3 of my books are. The 4th, which is Liars, Mistruths, and Perception, I actually wrote, my publisher does a 30 poems in 30 days contest in April for National Poetry Month.
Nice.
And it's a great exercise no matter what.
It is.
And you pick a theme, you have to stick to that theme. And that was the result. I picked a theme, I stuck with it, and I'm trying to think. It didn't take first place, I will tell you that, but I got an acknowledgement, if you will. And so I published it. So it's just, that's sort of what I do. I have the 4th book ready to go, the 5th book. It's been a while. And Leslie, you know, I recently came out also as a domestic violence survivor.
Right.
And I'm almost done with another collection about that. So,
Yeah.
but it's just, this is me, you know, this is how I process my thoughts.
It's funny, you know, I got my writing show. We talk about writing all the time. And one of the big questions I'm always asked is like, I can't write because I have nothing to write about. And I always find that so weird to hear, especially because, you know, like, yeah, the way when I started writing poetry, and I started writing at a young age too, like 8 or something like that. And my first thing was to write poetry about how I was feeling, and it helped me get that stuff out.
Yes.
You know, and I'm like, it doesn't fathom to me how people can say I don't have anything to write about. I'm like, yes, you do. It's just that you don't think it warrants writing.
Right.
You know, and the whole thing is anybody can write. It's just being able to follow through.
Absolutely.
Follow through with the writing. You know, and I like hearing what you're saying because it showcases what I've been talking about. It's like, you know, many people write poetry. There's a lot of people out there, and I know one of the first things they tell me is like, but it's not real poetry. And I'm like,
what does that mean?
What is
exactly.
Because people, well, but you know what? A lot of people I've noticed, a lot of people get caught up in the forms.
Exactly.
And now I can write any form you give me. Honestly, you give me a form, and that will take me longer than my
I agree.
style, but I can do it, and I can do it well. But I think a lot of people, that's what catches them, because it's not a sonnet, or it's not a villanelle, or it's not. So, you know, oh no, I can't do it. So they hold themselves back because they're afraid that they're not going to do it right, which there's no right. If you're doing something for you, or something that resonates for you, then you're doing it right.
Exactly. And but you know what it is, like you said, a lot of people get really stuck up in these definition of the poetry terms. Because even with free form, there, you know, people go, oh yeah, but you know, it's not really free form. I'm like, it's called free form. How can you say it's not really free form? Oh, but it needs to be like this and like this and like this. I'm like, no, it's free form. I understand that you have an idea of what free form should be, but it's not, you know, if you're gonna put limits to it, it's not free form.
Well, that's the thing, but it's hard to let go of that unless you become comfortable with what you're doing, and also with what you're thinking. Because I know I tell people, I haven't used this phrase in a while, but when you're showing someone your poetry, not to take away from any other genre, it's like you're standing naked in a street with a sign saying, hey, let me know if you like it, because you and especially for me, I know you lay yourself completely bare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I completely agree there, because you know,
you're telling everybody your feelings. You're telling everybody what you're going through in the world.
Because it's also such a personal thing, poetry.
Yes.
You know, I know some poets just write because they write poetry, but I feel like most poets are writing from this deep inside heart thing. And as soon as somebody like looks at it and goes, you're like, oh.
Yes. Or if you put now, I've been trying to, because you know, I also have a poetry page on top of, you know, I have a Facebook page for the Kate Fox show, and the Kate Fox show, and, and I have a Facebook page for my poetry. It's called My Pink Ribbons, which was, as you know, based on I have props on my first collection. And what I've been doing lately is now just sharing more and more. And once in a while, I'll put something out there, and I'm like, oh, no one reacted to it. And then I'm like, but that's not why you wrote it. So mind you, I would like to resonate with people and let them know that they are not alone, or let them at least think a little bit more about things that other people might go through, or, you know, whether it's something they have gone through or not. But I didn't write it for people to react per se. I wrote it to get it out of me and to acknowledge what I was thinking or feeling, or, you know, and that's really, even when I pick a word out of a dictionary, like as an exercise, because I feel like I'm being lazy, I'm still, once I pick that word, it's coming out of me.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You know, like on the written, we do challenges all the time, and you know, it's one of the things I love to do. Is, you know, like somebody will throw a word, a phrase, writer's prompt, something at me, and then I'll sit there and go, okay, now I'm going to write you something from what you just gave me.
Yes.
And it's an amazing challenge, because I feel like it showcases your ability to just write off of anything that's coming up, and also showcases what I tell you. You can write about anything.
Anything. Well,
Anything,
yes.
anything. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the wonderful thing about writing, is it appeals to somebody.
Exactly.
It appeals to somebody, no matter where, how weird or whatever. And you never know. The thing is that you have it out there. It's there now in perpetuity. Somebody will come across it and may use it as a reference. You never know. Once you put it out there on paper, if you keep it inside of you, once you leave this world, it's still inside of you. But when you put
Exactly.
it on paper, it's for the world.
Exactly.
Yes, it
You know,
is.
and it's, you know, it's out there for everybody to see and to use. So let's talk about the other aspect of this, which is, of course, the Kate Fox show, which Kate, you know, does this show. There she goes, and she just, you know, you do stuff and interviews like we do at the Bitten Apple TV.
Right.
But I think yours is just a little bit more, I don't know if it was be sophisticated, but she gets some good talent, boy. She gets some good talent.
Well,
I
see,
mean,
well, I don't. I'm sorry.
no. I was gonna say, because none of us are out there doing stuff like that. I mean, I'm still seeing that you're doing some interviews. I've caught
Yeah.
a couple of them. So, but just tell us, what are you doing it right now as far as keeping the show alive and keeping the content alive? What's going on with you doing that?
Well, and I listen, if anyone's watching that I owe a phone call or need to schedule something, hi Ace. I took a week or two back, but what I've been doing is, I'm very lucky that I've encountered a lot of people. And I have a lot of connections on social media, even if I haven't met them. And so if someone interests me, I figure they will interest someone else. And that's kind of
Makes
how
sense.
I go. You know, a lot of times I'll ask my friends, or when I reach out to someone like Rob Rush from The Shark, or Joel Hoekstra from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Todd Howarth from Fraley's Comet, 4x Fate, Chief Trick, Ted Nugent. I'm sorry if I forgot somebody, Todd. They're people I either know, or they're people after I interview them, I say, well, we're friends now.
And so that means that you are able now to do an interview with me whenever I ask, you know, in the future. You know, you must do that. You know, but even the fact that you have these friends, even now that you have these friends, you could pull in your bag. You could just pull them out and just say, "Hey, Ace Frehley, I'm going to do an interview with you. How's that?" He's like, "Yes."
Well, that one is on my wish list.
Oh, okay.
That one's on my wish list.
Okay, so I'll put that in the universe. I'll put that in the universe.
Put it out to the universe. Put it out to the universe. But that one is on my wish list. But for the most part, I have only gotten maybe one no so far, just because, you know what, because I'm a fan of everybody too.
Who was that no?
I have no comments. So
type in the private chat. Type in the
but you know, I'm a fan of everybody too. My Stonewall veteran.
Yeah.
Rusty Rose. We went with her the 50th Stonewall anniversary. I went with her to Stonewall the first time she went back there after the actual riots.
Right.
And it was I'm getting goosebumps again. It was mind blowing. She described just everything that happened, the way the place has changed since she was there as a teenager. And she was I mean, she's a rock star, and she's also a very well-known poet and author. But this woman, you know, we're walking up and there are kids from Europe wanting to take pictures with her.
Yeah.
And it's just, so that's what I get to do. You know, I knew she was going. I said, I want to come with you. Come with me. That was it. You know, like with you and I, when we went to Sopranos Con, which just now we have a whole other bunch of friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just the same thing. Do you want to do this? Okay. And that's something I do too. And I'm sure you guys do too. Someone will say, oh, do you want to? And the answer is always yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then after I say yes, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And this is us at Sopranos Con, which we had a ball at Sopranos Con.
We had the best time.
We had the best time there. And Kate was killing the interviews there. I have to pull that up. She was killing those interviews there. We were particularly nervous about one.
Yes, we were. I don't know
who. We ain't gonna say nothing, but
I don't know who. But let me tell you, Dominic Chianese blew me away because he actually, after I interviewed him, I didn't even realize it. He gave me a drop. You know, so I'm interviewing him, and all of a sudden he says, "I'm happy to be on the Kate Fox show," and I'm like,
"Yep, he sure."
I love when they do that on their own.
Yes, and you know, give me a kiss, kid. I was like,
yeah. That night was so fun, and we have to really give a shout out to Bernadette.
Bernadette Giacomazzo.
Yeah, Giacomazzo, who is doing her thing right now.
Oh my God.
Sisters doing it for themselves.
This woman that brought us into that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Bernadette, oh my gosh.
I can't wait to see her. Now she's doing one of the companies she reps. Now I haven't even talked to her recently to find out if it's still on. They're opening a hotel in Las Vegas. I think they were doing their press the press thing in March, which if so, we need to be going to Vegas in March.
We already put in for that. We already talked about that. You were in the group chat with me about us going, because we said we are there.
Yeah, and you know Charlie's in. I said, Charlie, we're going to Vegas. He's like, we're going to Vegas.
Shout out to
Charlie's on. Yes. You can't stop Charlie from going to Vegas.
I know. Oh, I know. But Charlie Saladino, my beloved associate producer, special correspondent, dear friend.
It came from the radio.
It came from the radio.
And what a sweetheart. An all around.
Oh, he is. He's amazing.
Oh, my bestie. He's my bestie.
Yeah.
And, you know, we also, when there's something on the red carpet for The Many Saints of Newark, which is the Sopranos prequel, our beloved Joey Cat is going to have us there. And then we have Sopranos Con, Mob Movie Con in July now. It's been moved to Atlantic City. So we're hopefully we can chug along and
get there.
So without these events, what I do is I take my phone. I use my phone because I don't want to be encumbered. And I go to places and meet people. And just, you know, that's what we do. We've been to the Paramount, which is, you know, the big music venue here on Long Island.
He's great.
And Adam is just phenomenal. And we talked to him about it because they're showing, and they're a bigger venue than a lot of the ones. I know there are a couple on Long Island that are struggling. They're in New York City and everywhere. But the Paramount has been sort of molding a little bit to keep going, and now they just opened another eatery there, called Ella's in New York. Ella's New York. I think it's a wood fire pizzeria. Oh,
nice. Yes,
so good.
You have me at wood fire pizzeria.
Yes, and pizza. It's phenomenal. And then you walk next door to Spotlight, which is part of it as well. And our friend Chelsea Takami does a residence there. She's doing a residency there from 3 to 6 p.m. every Sunday. She's playing, And now she's got sort of an open mic going as well, where she'll bring people up to perform with her.
Wow.
So it's really kind of neat to watch. We're hoping to be there tomorrow to talk to Adam again, because they're doing a holiday fair too with local vendors.
Wow.
So they're morphing in order to survive.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to. Yeah.
They're showing you how to do it, you know, and luckily they've been able to do it.
Yeah.
Ah, the amazing Kreskin. I'm
That
sorry,
was-
I'm watching what you're putting up now.
But,
Just
but
clapping
I
away.
have to tell you, this was really interesting when I saw this one, because this is from my generation. I am telling my age that he was like it. I remember Kreskin being everything, and this man
Oh
Yeah.
is. How was this interview, by the way? Because I'm very curious. Is this a man who does things with his mind? If anybody knows anything about Kreskin,
He is wonderful.
Yeah.
He is such a sweet man. I believe in him, but I'm of the generation as well.
yes, yes.
Oh my.
Just what a nice man, a class act.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been honored to speak to him in a couple of places because he does the convention circuit, and yeah, it's been such a pleasure to talk to him, and he's so friendly, and you know,
Yes.
yeah.
Which is refreshing. Well, you know what? I wonder if you guys agree with me, because I have found for the most part, and I was dragged into the con circuit in a roundabout way. A friend of mine was doing a con and wanted me to be a part of it as his charity person because of the breast cancer.
Huh.
And that's how I got into the cons. And then suddenly, you know, I met all these people that I adore, and my daughter does the cosplay. My daughter is does the cosplay and stuff. So I would go to things that I didn't want to go to because she wanted to go.
Right.
And not to belittle or anything, but it wasn't my scene initially. It wasn't something I was used to. So, but there are, I think I can count on one hand at any con I've been to, the amount of people that were unpleasant, or which is
I have to agree. Yeah.
right. And it's so nice.
There is only one who denied me an interview.
We have to compare notes, because there was one that denied me an interview too, and I was
I remember that one, Leslie.
Remember that I was kind of, because everybody is so nice and everybody is so, it's really like a family environment. So
Yes.
somebody being there, obviously he must be new to this environment, because he denied me this interview and he didn't know anything about the Bitten Apple TV. So I mean, he shut us down like we were like we were Fox News, but we really weren't. I mean, it was totally from a perspective of a fan base, but he's a little different. And so
some of them are.
I will continue to say that he's different, and I should have expected that. I just didn't expect it there.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I wasn't expecting it when I had an issue with one person, and I came prepared. I had seen this particular person on Broadway twice.
Wow.
And I had dug through my stuff because it was a while ago. I dug through everything because I say I'm a theater kid. I save everything. That's what my degree is in, you know. And so I was so excited. And when I got there, before I even people were set up, we were chatting, and he was sweet and adorable and friendly. And I was like, oh, all right. And I walked over and I said, I'd really like to interview you. And he said, oh, I don't have anything interesting to say. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, but I think you do. And then I said, oh, and I brought this. And he said, actually, I think it might have only been one program that I found. And I actually showed him the one program, and he said, oh, what production was this? Oh, the other one was better. Yeah, I don't do it. And I was like, because I had the fan thing too. You know, here I've got the program and I'm all excited. And
that's exactly my approach. I was
that's how it happened with her. Yeah.
We are fans.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We are fans of these people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing.
And I told this person, our show is based from the perspective of a fan.
Exactly.
We're not going to talk about any,
controversies or any of that. No
controversies and stuff. I said, I'm an actor and I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'm not doing the interview. Just like that.
Was
No.
he afraid? Maybe could he have been afraid?
Girl.
It
No.
feels like he was afraid because he didn't want any more bad publicity. But at the same time,
No, that wasn't it. It's strange. So,
Now, well, same thing. We'll be messaging now today.
yes,
Oh, and this
yes,
has-
we're talking about
I
it.
can see it after the show.
Ironically, the same week that happened to me, he's apparently friends with my brother, and he photobombed my brother's picture. And so I get on my brother's Facebook page and I see this picture, and I was like, what are you doing with this picture and this person? It goes, oh, he photobombed. We were doing something in class or whatever, and he photobombed the picture. And I say, this person photobombed your picture and denied your sister an interview the other day. And if he had known that was your brother and sister, maybe things would have gone differently.
Oh my
I said, so
God.
next time you see your friend, you tell your friend that.
That's crazy. But okay, you guys, and I'm gonna say I have to interview Matthew, by the way.
Mhm.
Oh, he's amazing. You really do have to get him on.
Yes,
Blown
definitely.
away.
I did an interview with him recently on his show, and it was just me and him going back and forth on the writer's journey. It was just an amazing experience.
My Ivan. Well, but I'm listening to him, and it's funny you're saying this though. The coincidences, there aren't coincidences.
There
I
are
believe
none.
every single thing happens for a reason,
For a reason.
even the things that break us into pieces.
Yep.
And we don't think we're ever going to get back up. And I had that recently. And my energy is finally, it took a while for my energy to shift, even though I knew it was for the best.
Right.
Yeah.
But nothing is a coincidence. Every single thing happens for a reason. And every bad thing in my life has brought something better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all
And
part of the journey.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
It's
ma'am.
all about the journey, and this is my hero's journey now.
Exactly.
But I'm good now. See, I'm just glomming on to what you guys were saying. But it's funny. You never know who's going to know someone else.
Yeah. That's
And
completely
it's
true.
such a small world now, and it's both in person and in social media, because
Yeah.
I find I'll see people in person even, and it's like, oh, and I'm like, how do you know? I know that person. How do you know that person?
How do you know that person? Yes.
It's crazy. And people sometimes forget, I think, like maybe someone who might be friends with your brother or something, that we are all connected.
That was so random. And my brother's all the way in Houston.
Oh.
So it was completely random.
Oh my.
Yes. So crazy. It was just really crazy.
In Houston.
Yes. And
That is
in
too funny.
Philadelphia. And then that same week, that person. Yeah. Very unique circumstance right there. It kind of blew me away. But
That is too funny.
I don't listen. I wouldn't say that. I would say that he's different, because I may work with him one day, so I'm not going to put it out there like that.
And we never know what someone's got going on, though, at a certain moment
That's
either.
another thing.
Exactly.
Sometimes
We
it
don't, but
happens.
he always has something going on, girl. So this
And
ain't
we
nothing
never
new.
know what someone has going on to make them unapproachable.
Exactly.
It might have been a bad coffee morning, or something.
It was in the afternoon. Maybe he didn't have maybe his blood sugar was low and he hadn't had any lunch,
Yeah,
who knows?
those cons can be very taxing,
Yeah,
and sometimes
They can be.
the talent doesn't get to eat right away.
That's
Or
true.
sometimes they try to take a bite and they got something hanging out of their mouth, and someone's
Yeah.
like, "Can I have an interview?"
Yeah.
And because people
No,
don't
Can I
want
get a
to.
picture?
Listen, after he denied me the interview, he did take a picture with me.
At
And I
least.
told him I didn't want to take a picture with him. And he said, come on, take a picture with me. So he forced me to take a picture with him. I felt like I had been on a bad date. But I tell you that it was like, it was very interesting. It was very,
It's all like, what the?
Don't you're scaring me. The whole dating thing scares me. So it's terrifying.
Anyway.
And you know what? You showed a picture now, and I have to say, you guys have to come with us to. Oh God, I'm not going to say it right. I'm sorry, my Ivy. Ivy's Paranormal and Mike's, oh my God, I'm not saying it right. Mike's Comic Pop Shop in Queens.
Oh yes, yes. I would love to do that.
It's
Yeah,
Mike
Supersonic's a blast.
Carbonaro from the Big Apple Con. And of course, the amazing Ivy Supersonic, the woman of many hats and talents.
Yeah.
And you guys
We've
have to
interviewed
come
her
with
a couple
us.
times.
I'm digging her necklace, her Native American necklace.
She made
right
that.
there.
She made that.
That is off the chain.
She's
I'm
an
loving
amazing
that.
talent, Leslie. I'm telling you, she's amazing.
Oh my,
Yeah.
this woman, now I'm getting goosebumps again because I met her at Big Apple Con and we clicked. And again, I've reached out to her. I was like, you know what? I want to interview you. She just had her film coming out, Ivy's Paranormal, which was a documentary about her art.
I remember that.
And okay, you know, and again, fast friends. I think my interview was scheduled for the afternoon. We ended up going to dinner and we didn't leave until like 10 p.m. or so.
But Kate, you have that effect on people. Let's just face it. Like the minute that you and I met each other, we hit it off very well. So you just have that effect on people. I think people who interview people who have a natural talent of interviewing people actually just have the ability to have people just tell them anything. You have to have some kind of a gift, and you absolutely positively have that.
Well, I think you do too. And but you know what we have to have an interest.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And I think even if if you're talking to a normal person, you know, you're interested in them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what it is. It's and now I was going to say it doesn't take a special talent, but I think to some extent it does take a gift.
Yeah.
I think to draw things out of people or but I'm interested in every person I talk to. And you know, I made a couple new friends last week. I was at a secret location music event. But undisclosed location. But I met a few people and I was like, well, I have more questions.
Yeah. So
because
you
that's
did do
what
it again.
we do. You know, that we want to know. And I know who I interviewed Billy Mira and the Hitmen, Howard Stern. He had a Fox show on podcast, so entertaining. And he made fun of me when I showed up. He's like, where are your notes? I said, I don't have any. And he says, I usually would have pages of notes. I said, no, I want it to be organic and I want to find out about you. And he made fun of me at first because, you know, he's like, that's not how I do it. And I'm like, well, I know. And I don't want to know everything about you coming in because I want to learn about you from your mouth.
Right.
Yeah. It helps the interview out. I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with you too. Not knowing anybody, just maybe the briefest things about them, maybe their work, but knowing you know, from the context of just meeting you for the first time and having a conversation with you, like two people meeting at a bar or a restaurant or something like that.
Yes. And I think people appreciate that because they kind of, and listen, like, since I mentioned Billy, you know, I watched an interview he did after the fact, and clearly this person had a sheet of, I mean, everything. And I was kicking myself for a minute because I was like, wow, I would have liked to have asked that. And I said, you know what? I had so much fun talking to him. And I wouldn't have had as much fun if I was so worried about doing my checkoffs.
Yeah.
You know, with the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would rather.
The audience appreciates it too when it's an organic conversation, because you might ask a question that somebody doesn't know, something that's not been written in a bio about somebody that everybody knows. It's for you see, you're asking something about, you know, just having a normal conversation.
Well,
and at the end of the day, these people are normal. So
that every one of them is normal. And
except the one I wasn't able to interview. But anyway, and the one you weren't able to interview either. But anyway, we're actually getting close to time. We're actually getting close to
we are.
Over time, because this has been such a great conversation. No, this will continue. This will continue. This conversation will continue. So I'm going to put up all of your stuff here, and I'll put, of course, my picture with you on there because, you know, we buddies.
My girl, my sister.
Yep, my girl. So this is your Instagram. You're at Kate Fox, Fox Kate 27.
Yes.
Facebook Kate Fox, YouTube Kate Fox. And then of course your channel, which is Kate's Pity Party, which is hilarious.
I came up with that when around the time, actually it was before I was diagnosed with breast cancer, but my whole premise is that's my feel good place, and everyone needs to have a
Yes.
feel good place.
Yeah.
And everyone needs to have a place where they can have a brief pity party.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
You know, my mother used to always say, when I was like, and I'm the more emotional, probably out of my mother's children, and she said, "Listen, I can't be you can't be strong like me," because my mother was one of the strongest people I knew. She said, "But give yourself 3 days." She said, "Cry about it for 3 days, and then on the 4th day, you got to get up and live."
Yep. You can have a pity party. You can have some misery for what, or sadness, but then you need to get up and walk out of that, because if you live there, you're not going to live.
You're not going to live. Exactly.
You're going to live in that moment for the rest of your life.
Yes. And it's not going to be a life worth living.
No, not at all.
Isn't. Because, you know, yes, there's so much more adventure out there, as Matt says. So once again, please
heed the call to adventure, people. Heed the call.
And say yes. Be fearless.
Exactly.
Yes. So please like, subscribe, follow Kate. You know, see what she's doing. She has some of the best interviews out there, some of the most organic interviews, funny interviews, and you know, she's got so much more that she's going to do. We're going to definitely have you back, Katie. I love you dearly.
I love you.
And I can't wait to go on so many more adventures with you, because we have such a good time.
We do.
So what are you going to be doing next before we let you go? What are you going to be doing next?
What am I going to be doing next? I am actually building out my schedule again. I had some things scheduled to do. So I didn't air a show last Thursday, which usually I air a show every Thursday. Which you people understand it. Not everybody understands what goes into doing something every single week.
A lot of work.
And I was supposed to do Motorcycle Mayhem Radio next week, but I sometimes do that with my friend Johnny Rizzo. I am not a biker, but I have a lot of biker friends. And you know what? They're all good. You too. We go to so many different places. We have friends in every community. You know, but right now I'm building out my schedule. I'm not even sure what I'm going to have up next week. I will be at the Paramount tomorrow having some pizza at Ella's. Stop by if you want to and say hello. You can buy us a drink or a pizza. And I'm going to be having my book, my 5th book, Perimeters. I'm actually, I think, going to be doing self-published at this time, just because I want to learn how to do that. And that should be, I would say, spring of 2021. And then my next collection, which is actually called Eggshells, is going to be late next year, or and then I'll because it just triggered me for a second. And proceeds from that book, I'm going to donate some to a domestic violence charity.
Okay, get it. I understand it. All right, everybody. This is Kate's information one more time, right here up on the panel for you, so you can see it. Katie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
You and I will be talking offline. Don't leave the green room. I'm going to talk to you as soon as we get out of this. So I wanted to, so don't leave the green room. But good seeing you, and
good
take
seeing
care.
you.
And thanks a lot, girl. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And belated Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy every other holiday I'm forgetting. Happy New Year.
Yep. And thank you, Dee Dee. Happy holidays to you too for saying that.
Dee Dee's been all busy over here.
All right. See you soon, honey.
Bye.
Okay, bye. So, Ralph, it's up the time for us to go. We are actually we're taking a break. The Bitten Apple's taking a little break.
We're going to be on Christmas break for 2 weeks. So don't look for us for those 2 weeks, or maybe look for us. Maybe stuff will happen. Who knows?
It depends on how we feel. Yeah, but please look for us. We're going to take a happy holidays break. We'll probably will see you in 2021. Stay safe, everybody. Be out there with your family and everything. Enjoy it, but make sure that you stay safe. and Written Writ Ralph, my friend, my buddy, and all of my pals at Bitten Apple TV. Happy holidays to you all. I love you all. I can't wait to see you
In person.
next year in person and actually spend some time with you all in my home. So, just do live interviews from the house or whatever,
Oh, that'd be interesting. Live from Leslie's house.
That'd be interesting. But anyway, honey, I love you. Happy holidays to
Love
you
you
and
too,
your
Leslie.
family.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, our audience out there. We love you all. We love your support. Please continue to like and subscribe our videos. We have some really great videos and interviews out there that we have on our YouTube channel of past cons. That's it.
Oh, just remember, keep giving us comments and stuff because it really helps the show and lets us know what you're thinking and lets us know what you want to see. And it's been helping us out to flesh out these shows that we've been giving you, whether it's the Written Writ or this show or Leslie's other show. So just keep talking to us, and we'll keep talking to you.
And we'll try to recreate that for you. Get those great interviews out there for you. So happy holidays, everyone. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.